Okay, this is going to be part 3 on these timeline of events. So we're going to focus right there on here. So this be the midpoint. So if New Orleans is hit by a hurricane, not New Orleans, New Orleans, destroyed by a hurricane, followed by 4 such cities being destroyed in December, can we expect the 7 open visions that the Lord gave me to take place? Now, what are the arguments of this? Well, the evidence would be, number one, from what this brother here was saying. Where are we now? Gil Bassard. He said if we see planet 7X show up sometime next year, around August, then he said that planet 7X would fly by sometime in March, right here. So, March, April is pretty close. Okay, that's one set of factors that would establish it would be here. The second factor is that the Russian scientists have calculated, by watching Nibiru for these past 30 years and by putting it into their supercomputers, that Nibiru is going to make its closest approach to the Earth between the 3rd and 4th weeks of February 2021. Now, is there any more evidence to support this? I know we're still way out from the Psalms 83 war happening over here. I know we're if it does happen here, that means we can expect to see these other events that I shared with you in the first video series. And physical signs, as I was mentioning before, I did hear the voice of the Antichrist right at the end point of these visions. In the visions, I was with my wife. I'm not married yet, but I met my wife, and we went to one of David Terrell's camp meetings. It seemed like it was a spring camp meeting that was held in the Tabernacle in Banks, Texas, and I was kind of mystified because usually in the spring or summer, it's the camp meetings are held in the tent on the property, right, in the big tent. But I remember meeting my wife, and this is where the Lord sent me out. Where the Lord came to David Terrell. I was sent out from Bangs, Texas. And I don't know how I arrived at Port Angeles, waiting for the ferry. I don't remember jumping on a plane or driving up or somewhere someone drove me up, or whether I took some other means to get there. All I knew that the time that this happened, it seemed to be like a Saturday, and the revivals usually start on a Thursday that go for 10 days in the spring meetings. But anyway, it was imperative to get back to my own country to bring the warning. And I did see, in the visions, I did see the early rays of the sun rise up at 5 o'clock in the morning over the Pacific. So that could be a sign. This could be our sun. If it is our sun, then it's an early indication that the pole shift has started, where the Earth is actually going to be turned upside down. So that could be an early warning, right? And also at the same time that the plans were in place. This is where the Exodus started here. Those 10,000 vehicles, they went up to the northern part of Canada, but the plans were complete. The plans were complete. So this would indicate, I've been working on the plans now, and actually by next April, or not this next April, but here the plans would be complete. So that could tell me that when we get to this period here, 1 year, if it doesn't happen here, that there'd be a time frame in which to establish the places of refuge, not just for that 10,000 vehicle convoy that I saw go up north, but it'd be a time for the places of refuge throughout America to be established, right? That we're going to have to be in place. So it could happen here. I just don't know. There's arguments for both sides, for here or for here, but it could happen here. As you get closer to the time, then you're going to know. Economically, Canada, I knew by the Spirit, was at 600% hyperinflation. Cash was virtually worthless. And we know that the U.S. economy is going to take a hit by spring or summer because the banks already have their handouts to the feds now for $100 billion a day. And that's what triggered the 2008 crash. That back in 2007, the banks had their handout that caused the 2008 crash. So we could see the crash going down here, right? And so we know also that in 2020, in October, that the real ID is going to be enforced. Everyone's going to have the real ID here. And this may have something to do with the replacement of cash. Like you won't be able to do any banking or nothing like that unless you got the real ID. In other words, if you got cash on hand, we know that the dollar is going to crash and be replaced by a new U.S. Treasury note. It's not going to be the Federal Reserve note. So the dollar is going to crash here. But in order to take your dollars to the bank, you're going to have a real ID. You see what I'm saying? So it's a catch-22 that we're being set up for. And there is another aspect of all this that we're going to see in 2020, that we're going to see 5G is going to be set up. So what does that say? And this is what I'm seeing. That 5G is going to hook up all the ABCs, all the different agencies are going to be brought under one umbrella, or that the beast is going to begin to rise up, the spirit of the beast, as far as AI is concerned, or artificial intelligence, that all the different aspects, avenues that we're tied to, is going to be brought under one head. So we're going to see the head of the beast begin to rise up here, the spiritual head. So the beast is going to know everyone that has a number. So once you take this national ID card or real ID, then you would be tracked 24/7. Everything that you do and say or go is going to be monitored at this point. And in the visions, there was great fear coming up from the States. In the spirit, I knew that there were three major mountains that were, three major volcanic eruptions were taking place in Oregon and in northern Oregon and Washington states. I knew that by the spirit. And we know that right now, that these 5 waves of energy, we're in the 3rd wave here. But we may be crossing over into the 4th wave, where the energy that's being drawn inside the earth from the 5 waves of energy is going to increase. So we're talking, a lot of stuff is going to happen here, and a lot of shortages. And with the trouble that's in the Middle East, we know that the oil is going to be shut down in the port of Hormuz. And so that's going to, I think others have seen upwards of 80% of the oil is going to be cut off to the world, because there's going to be trouble. It's going to be trouble in the Middle East. So that's going to cause shortages on the home front. So it's possible that the 7 open visions could have their fulfillment in April of 2021. All the signs, especially what the Russian astrophysicists have said, combined to what this brother here was saying, Gil Bassard. So we need to watch for that. But there's also minor signs, climate changes, where we're going to see, the increase in summer heat and all kinds of shortages, fuel shortages, gas shortages, power shortages. All the shortages is going to show up here and only get worse. But in the visions, I was still able to travel to where the Lord sent me from Bangs, Texas. The next morning, I remember standing in Port Angeles at 5 o'clock in the morning. I saw seeing the early rays of this sun rise up in the west. And being at 5 o'clock in the morning, that could be a sign. I knew in the Spirit, by the Spirit, I was standing there. It was exactly 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was walking in the fear of the Lord. And I remember when I walked onto that ferry, everybody left the back part of the ferry. They went in the front. They didn't want nothing to do with me. So I was walking in a different state that I am now. I was walking in 360-degree knowing. I knew everything that happened around me. I knew everything about people and places. I was walking in that state. So we're talking, this is going to take place in and around that the manifestation of the sons of God is going to take place. And I knew in the Spirit. I remember in the early part of the visions, I was looking over Vancouver Island, and I didn't see any harvest. I didn't see no lights. It's like all the lights, all the harvest has been harvested off of Vancouver Island, right? That God's going to reap a harvest, and we know that we might be at the early point of a revival breaking out here with what David Terrell saw, a major earthquake as a sign of a dead raising revival. So we could see revival take place in here, which is going to, God's going to remove the righteous from the cities, and also it's going to be a preparation move to put an exodus plan together to get off the west coast. So it's going to be lots that's going to be happening here. So it's possible that the 7 open visions could take place a year or 12 months after April of 2020. So I'm sure there's other things that I was shown, but the main thing was the Canadian economy was at 600% hyperinflation. Cash wasn't doing so well, and this could be the point where we could see America next year. Especially when they devalue, when the reset happens, and they devalue the new currency by 30% or more. That's going to cause things to double and triple, right? So we need to prepare, regardless whether it's 12 months or whether it's 24 months. We need to prepare for what's coming. That's if next year, that's if 2021 or 2020 is the time where, so this is 2020 here, this is 2021 here, whether 2020 is the time of all these minor signs to start to come to pass. Yeah, this is the beginning of 2020 here, so 2021 and 2022, I'm going to end it here. So there is a prophetic picture that is coming together.